Cool. Hello. All right, get on to Instagram. Might do that. We have success. I am on Facebook and Instagram. Just gonna wait for a few people to jump on and then I'm gonna get started with the project. Cool. Hi everyone. Hi. I am on the Facebook, so if I don't respond, it's because I'm painting away. Sorry, get my wine glass out of the way. And I'll be typing on Facebook if anyone wants to kind of have a chat. Cool. Alrighty. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon for my first live stream. I'm so excited to do this painting live for everyone that's at home, or if they're bored and kind of just want a little project that they can work on for themselves. Now, so in front of me, what I have is, so I've got some paints here. So these are the paints that I work with when I do my workshops. I also have these available as art kits. If anyone doesn't have any watercolor paint at home, I am delivering, especially if you are in WA. So they're the ones that I'm going to be using today, as well as a paintbrush, and I have a pencil as well, and an eraser, some paper towel, which will come in really handy. I'll show you guys when to use that, as well as some watercolor paper. So the stuff that I'm using today is quite thick, but you can use a thinner one, whatever you have access to. Alternatively, if you don't have any watercolor paints at home, you might have watercolor pencils or some other kind of paint. Feel free to follow along with whatever you have and kind of do your own spin on it. So today, what we're going to be creating, I'm going to show you how to do donuts in two different ways. So we're going to do like a top-down view there, and also kind of like a side-on view as well for a little bit of a challenge, so that way you can really test your skills out to the max. Awesome, so let's get started. So for this first bit, what you'll need is your pencil. Put that there. All right, and so for the first bit with your pencil, a nice easy way to just create this round shape is simply using something that is also round to kind of trace on and use. So that could be the bottom of a wine glass or something round just to trace it. So quickly do that. Awesome. So as we've got here, so I'll be switching cameras because I've got two set up next to each other. So as you can see here, we've got a bigger circle with a smaller circle inside. How's that looking on the grams? So there's just a big circle there with a smaller one on the side as well. Yeah, it's getting me hungry too. I didn't realize how obsessed I was with donuts until I was trying to pick something to do. Like I did these other donut paintings today. I have this fun kind of mug that I have on my desk. They're just such a cool thing to paint or draw because they are so fun and you can just go absolutely crazy with it. Anyway, getting distracted. So that's the first two steps there. We've got a big circle and a small circle. Now what we're going to do, like you can see here, we want to make it look like it's got icing on it. So we're just going to kind of do some little squiggles here, quite close to the edge. Because, you know, the more icing, the better, right? Awesome, so that's what that one looks like there for the Facebook peeps. Whoop. There we go, and then for the gram peeps, you can kind of see that there. It's like a little squiggle thing going on. So now that you've got your base in pencil, so as you know, if you paint in watercolors often, or if you've used watercolors before, they are quite transparent, so you can see the paints underneath. Like whatever's underneath the paint, you can see it. So this is where your eraser comes in handy, just to kind of get rid of any little lines or erase any lines that might be a bit too dark, just so you've got a nice clean base. So just spend a moment kind of tidying that up, and then we'll go on to drawing this one. Hey everyone on the grams, I've come around having a bit of a look to see who's jumped on. Cool. Alright, so the next step now we'll be doing is drawing the kind of side on donut. So this one requires just a little bit more drawing and accuracy, and you might have a few more lines happening on your page just to get the shapes right. So the first thing that you do here is kind of like a little oval, like this, which will be the top of the donut. Just got a little oval like that. Cool. And now we're going to turn this into a 3D shape. Cool, so I've just extended that down there. Awesome, and then in the middle you kind of want to do like a smaller little circle as well. See here I'm doing a couple of different lines that I will erase just to get that line where I want it. So that's what it will end up looking like at the end, as you can see that there. Cool. And now again, what we want to do is, like this one, is just come down and add our icing. Or however you kind of want to go with that. So I just like to do mine like it looks like it's dripping, just because I think it looks really fun. Awesome. Alright. So then you've got your lines all happening there. So what we're going to do now is, like in the first one, is just erase everything that you don't need and keep it quite simple. So I'll do mine and just show you the level you want to get it to. So you see here it is super faint, but when you paint over it in watercolour, the fainter the better, just because you won't be able to see it through the paint. Cool. So the reason I like to do two is because watercolour is a water-based paint, as the name suggests, but it does take a little while to dry between doing the different layers, and that is a key part to watercolour, is kind of letting those different layers dry so you can build up the different kind of shading and the textures. But if you kind of work on it when it's wet on wet, then it'll go to bleed and go everywhere. So if you want something crisp, it's just easier to kind of have two so you're not tempted to keep working on the same one, and that'll just make your artwork look a bit muddy. Alright, so first bits first, we're going to actually paint the donut bit. So choose your colour, whatever it is, you just kind of want one base colour there, and I just want you guys to lightly paint around wherever your icing isn't. Getting an arm workout painting like this, or something diff. Oops. But yeah, water is your friend, so keep adding water if it's not going on as smooth as you'd like. And then you can kind of see how here I've gone over my line and it's pooling, probably just because it's standing upright. That's when your paper towel comes in handy, because you can just dab that off and it will kind of take the paint off when it is wet. Awesome, so we're just going to get this base layer on. Perfect. Cool. And now you can see here pooling again, so I'm just going to dab that off. Then do the middle as well. Beautiful. Cool, and now I'll just do the same down the bottom. It won't be as much down here, but you're just doing those kind of sections. As you can see, I'm kind of working in one little space before I move on to the next space. That just keeps the watercolor looking nice and even, so you won't get any like drying spots. So if that's any tip, I would suggest just working on one space at a time. Cool. Alright, so now you've got all your kind of donut happening in there. You might even need a touch in there so we can look a bit 3D. So that's the first kind of layer, what that looks like, as you can see. But yeah, any questions, let me know, and I can quickly give you guys some tips just while we're waiting for those to dry. Just type it in the comments. Cool. When I'm usually painting, sometimes I'll even have like 3 or 4 different paintings on the go, just because it's times like this when you're waiting for it to dry, that it can, you know, get a bit trying, but all good. Patience, get yourself a cup of tea or a glass of wine, that helps too. Okay, So my top one looks like it's dry. Now we're going to do a similar thing here. So choose your colour for your topping. I think for this one, I am going to go, just do a standard pink, I reckon. So then we're going to be really careful when coming up to these edges, because sometimes if it is still a little bit wet, if you touch it on the other areas that are wet, it will bleed into them. I'm just going to be dabbing a bit more than you guys, probably because my painting's standing upright, so it's a little bit harder to kind of control that flow. So one thing I usually say in most of my workshops is, because I've got here a few bits and pieces that I've splattered around, that I like to kind of embrace the imperfections. In the words of Bob Ross, there are no accidents, just happy mistakes, which is one of my favourite quotes. Just showing, you know, art's meant to be fun and you can't take it too seriously. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is, while it is still wet, you kind of can add a bit more colour to make it look a bit darker in spaces, a bit lighter in other spaces. Beautiful. Dab those excess bits off. The paper towel also leaves a pretty cool texture, because it does pull off some of the paint as well. Awesome, so that's what that looks like there. Just got the first one. Great. And then do the second one as well. So we're just doing flat colours at the moment, because we'll add, with the layers, we'll add in some extra kind of shading and sprinkles and stuff, so that way it looks a bit more 3D and realistic. So as I've got here, like, it's probably not quite 100% right where I put the colour first, but you can always go back in and kind of update that afterwards. So we've got our two donuts happening now. So they're just two kind of base colours. Now I'll go up and fix because they've got some little white bits there. So sometimes you can use just water to kind of blend those in to where you need, but just be careful when you do that because if you don't want it to kind of spill into the other colour, it can be a little bit unpredictable. Oh, forgot a bit. Blue bit goes here as well. Cool. Stage 1 complete. So stage 2, what we do there is make it look like the icing is actually sitting on something. So now you're going to get that same colour because it will be dry. The base, the donut layer will be dry. So if you're adding the same colour on top of watercolour, it will kind of build it up and it will be a little bit darker. So I want you to kind of go around the bottom of the icing there, and you're just going to make it look like there's a slight shadow with the darker paint. Or with the same colour paint, because the layering will give it that shadowed effect. I really like using the paper towels just because it gives a really nice organic texture. But I know that they are in high commodity at the moment, so yeah. So we're just going around making it look like there's a tiny shadow there, just so the object looks a bit more 3D. Beautiful. And we'll do the bottom one as well. This one's probably a bit too wet still to work on because it just started spilling in, so we can do that later. So now we're just going to kind of wait for this to dry. Awesome. So we're just waiting for this stuff to dry. If you've got a hairdryer, feel free to use that, but if not, it's a bit of chill time. Should be fine now. Start from over here. depends on the kind of style that you want as well. So if you want it to be smoother or maybe a bit rougher. Cool, so now at the top the pink has dried, so we're just going to be doing the same now with that. So adding a bit of layer just around the edges so it looks a bit more 3D. Because with watercolors, when you are using them, because they are transparent and there is really no white that you can use, you're kind of always just painting in the dark colors and building up the shadows so that way the lighter bits look lighter. Just going to use that again. So the blue one is slightly different just because it's on a different angle. So you kind of ever so slightly just want to make this little bit in the middle here a bit darker because that's like the inwards of the center of the donut. Just going to smooth that out. And paper towel. So you can see it's kind of starting to look a bit more 3D. Awesome, and then you just kind of want to layer up a bit so as it kind of goes over the top of that donut, just to give that some shadowing as well. This is making me so hungry. Should have BYO donut to this workshop. As you can see, I'm not being too worried about my brush strokes because I can always just blend them out with water afterwards. So I'm just going to do like a faint line across here with the blue. Around the back there. I'm just dabbing off again that excess paint. Cool. Awesome. So we've got the base layers on now, so just going to wait for that to dry for a second. So the next thing we're going to have a bit of a think about is what toppings we're going to put on our donut, which I think is always the funnest thing about donuts. So I think for the top one, I'm just going to do some sprinkles, and then for the bottom one, I'm going to do this kind of effect. So just like that. This is what I'm kind of going to go for the bottom one. Alright, so for the sprinkles, just going to make sure it's dry. Yep. You can as well, like if you're at this stage and you're not happy with how your donut's looking, just kind of keep layering up those different colors. So maybe you just want to add in a bit more pink, or maybe you want to add in a bit more blue, so that way it looks like it's got a bit more depth. I think the issue I'm having with this one, it's just got, the water's just a bit too saturated on the brush. So that's where your paper towel again comes in so handy. All right, so sprinkles on the donut. I might do blue and then kind of maybe like a pink situation on this one, so that way they look nice together. So I'm just going to go around now and put some random sprinkles on it. You might have a hard time if you're wanting to put lighter colours on this, just because you know, the nature of watercolour, it's hard to layer up lighter colours because they're not very like milky or pastel. So I might add in some green as well. I'm just going to try the lighter colour and see how it goes against my own advice. Yeah, not too bad. I think particularly with the paint that I have, it's a little bit milky-ish anyway because it's a beginner kit. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It all just depends on what supplies you like using. We are getting there. This one's still a little bit wet. I want to add a little bit more blue here. Just to kind of really give it that shadow. Just again, gotta let this dry. Thanks everyone that's joined. Feeling the love. Thank you very, very much. We're getting there. And then if you do have a bit of watercolour on there that you aren't super happy with, just put more water over it and then you can dab it off. One thing I love about the paper towels too is that it looks kind of pretty when you use it to dab off similar colours. Right, we're going to go up the top again, even though it is still a bit wet. I want to show you guys a technique that you can use which looks really cool with the splatters. So with the sprinkles, this technique is the splatter technique. So for this one, you just want to get heaps and heaps and heaps of, little happy accident there, heaps and heaps and heaps of water and paint on your brush so it looks like it's almost dripping. Then when you get it across your page where you want it to go, just kind of tap it down like that, and it's just gonna go a bit cray all over your painting. Just give it that fun effect. Might even do a bit of purple on that one as well. Beautiful. Alright, got a bit of splatter down the bottom, but that's all good. We're embracing those happy accidents. So for down the bottom, I'm really going to embrace the blues and kind of use a different blue to create like a swirl around it. So kind of flowing with the shape of that icing, starting up here and just looking like it's overlapping. Oh, and as you can see here, it's a bit wet, so it's like dripping in, which we don't want. Fix that up later. Look at that sauce. What flavour do you guys reckon this is? So now I'm just going to kind of use this time while we wait for this blue to dry. Touch-ups. So what I want to do next is kind of put little spots on here, so it's like little sprinkles. What I might do is do them in between the little squiggles. Picking the colour is always the hardest task. Might just do pink. Who doesn't love sprinkles? But yeah, you guys can get as crazy as you want with this. Like, absolutely just make it your own. Sky is the limit. Make it look like it's just dripping down the icing. Just gonna wait for that to dry for a minute. I can't believe I've been like painting this for nearly 40 minutes. Like it just, yeah, time goes so quickly when you're doing something creative. So this is a really nice way to kill a few hours or so. If you're doing this for yourself, you want to do it for a gift. You might have 2 weeks to spare, so you can really perfect your skill. Right. Impatient old me. Yes, we have someone from Exmouth that joined. Love. If you enjoy this and you are regional, so this week I went out and did a regional class in the wheat belt. Like I would be totally keen to do more of these, especially for regional people and people that can't come to local workshops for whatever reason. So you know, you can art from wherever. All right, so now for the last bit. So this, I'm going to try and go where the dry bits are, but what we're going to do is pick another colour. I'm going to go yellow. I'm just getting I think the yellow and the blue will look really cool. And then do some little dots on the, oh, nope, too wet, premature. All right, let's try that again. Yeah, that's a bit better. Just had too much water on the brush there. Look at that. So now what I'm going to do is completely up to you guys, depending on where you are, is just doing a little bit of touch-ups here and there, because when watercolor dries, it always dries so much lighter than it does when you put it on the page. I'm just going to go around, kind of create a little bit more of those shadows to give it some depth and look like the donut is just jumping off the page. It's going to look like there's a bit of shadowing under this icing here. Awesome! Alright, and that's pretty much done. I might just add one more splatter for funsies on the bottom donut. And then that is live stream done. If you have painted along, or if you're watching the reruns and you have painted along at home, I would love to see what you've made and see the kind of donut that you've created. Share it with me, send me a DM or tag me on your social feeds. No pressure if you don't want to share it with anyone else. I won't share anything unless I kind of ask you first on my socials if you want to share it with me. Yeah, but if you have enjoyed it as well, let me know if you'd like to do another one, and what else you want to learn. This will be up on my Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as well for you to watch at any point you like. Rewatch, keep practicing, and it's been an absolute pleasure. So I'm going to clock off, go and finish my glass of wine, and I hope everyone has a lovely rest of the evening.